What's up, everybody? How's it going? It's been quite a minute since since I last kind of showed what's been going on with the compiler and just kind of giving you guys some lessons and so on and so forth. So, without wasting any time, let's just get straight into it. So, I have been busy for quite a while. If you guys have maybe seen on my last video, I was working on the platform revision 0.3.0. Now, it's been a minute. What has it been, like 2 years or something like that? It's still not done. Technically, I took a year off, so it's really only been a year and a few months for me working on this. I wanted to actually wait until this was done, but I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it. It's very close to being done, but I'm just going to do it straight. There's going to be some big changes to the channel, so what I'm going to be doing now is I'm just going to be filming straight out. One of the biggest issues with why I was inconsistent with my videos is because I would film basically an hour and I would just be left with editing all of the mistakes out and the awkward pauses and all that crap. Honestly, I just need to get that out of my system. So these next few videos, probably the next like 30 videos or something, is going to be rough, guys. So please bear with me. There's going to be a lot of awkward pauses. I'm probably going to be rambling. I might repeat myself, but I'm just going to let me iron those out naturally instead of trying to force them out by doing editing, where if I take a 1 hour video, it might take me 2.5 hours to edit out all of the awkward pauses, coughs, and etc. So please bear with me again, guys. But that's kind of one of the big changes that are coming on the channel. And then from there, let's kind of go straight into what I've been up to, what is the status of this update, as well as what we're going to be getting into with the channel going forward. So, one of the major things that I wanted to focus on with this is architecture, architecture, architecture. That's been one of the biggest challenges with me. So here, if I go here, this is basically a textbook explanation as to what the hell's been going on with my programming languages over the years, right? So you see here, this was the old compiler architecture. It was just a shit show. You can see this is a ridiculously looking house. They're stacked on top of each other in weird angles and weird ways. It's barely holding up. It's propped up on sticks and duct tape and probably a couple of nails or something like that. It's got weirdly structured electricity to power the house and all this. Like, obviously, you can see this is not something you'd want to live in. This is very scary. It's very uncomfortable. It's very shifty and rickety. It is just not good. And honestly, I'm really surprised you guys didn't roast me that bad, because the architecture, looking back on my compiler, is atrocious. I'm coming up on about 10 years almost in development and software engineering professionally. As you guys know, I'm an Android developer. That's my main focus. But throughout the years, I have honed my skill on understanding good compiler architecture and just good architecture in general in coding. Now, this is the new architecture, and I'm going to explain these two and kind of how this kind of translates, I guess, into actual code. But this is the new compiler architecture that I have. I did a video on compiler architecture in the past, but that's now outdated, which this is also kind of bring me to another situation. I'm not sure where we should go with this channel. I'm going to be honest. I'm very excited to teach you guys all the stuff that I've learned, all the stuff I've been up to, all the stuff that is in the compiler, all of the new features and so on and so forth. But I'm going to leave it up to you guys. No, I'm probably not going to build a bunch of new features in the language, but I can explain in great detail how things should be written as they're written now in this new compiler. But as you can see here, obviously this house is very beautiful. It's very architecturally sound. It's got lots of really cool textures and colors and so on. Whereas this one just looks terrible. It just looks bad. So you guys get the point. Let me explain how this translates into actual code and explain to you why I'm so excited about this new system and why I couldn't wait to just share it with you guys. Honestly, this was probably going to take me another 6 months to 8 months to fully get it like release ready, to where at that point I think I'll actually have a legitimate programming language. Up until this point, my programming language has not been a real language. It's just been a hot mess. I'm going to be completely honest, and a very frustrating one for me and probably for people who tried to use it. So if we look here, right? Obviously, you guys know how a compiler should be generally constructed. The first thing I will say before we get into anything in this video or further videos is the front end has not really changed all that much. Honestly, the parser is one of the hardest things that I've had to develop in this compiler, so I haven't really changed it. I mean, the only thing I think I've probably done was added some syntax to the language, but outside of that, I have not really changed how the tokenizer or how the parser works. So for all of those videos in the past, you can still reference those, those are still valid. Creating a front end for a compiler is a very laborious task, and I've just stayed away from that. So we're going to ignore that. The back end is where the magic happens. That's where once you parse all of this text, right? You see this text here. Obviously, I still got some stuff to do. I got tons of crap to fix and so on and so forth. But how do you translate all this into actual understandable computer code, right? And you guys know this. You know how it works. You have the back end for that. So I have 2 files for the entire compiler. I don't even know how, because I know some of you guys have actually looked into my code and tried to replicate. I don't even know how the hell you were able to do anything. I mean, this one file is what, 10,000 lines of code? Guys, do not do this. Okay, this one's 2,000. Isn't the other one like 10,000? Yeah, it's so big that my IDE won't even process it. Yeah, it's almost 10,000 lines of code. Guys, do not do this. This is really bad engineering. This is just really bad coding. If you're going to code a bunch of crap, at least split it out into some files. My goodness. But just in general, even if I were to split this out into files, this architecture is horrible. It's built like this house right here. So let me explain, or let me show you the new way that I'm doing it. So if we go here to grammar, I've taken the approach of compartmentalization. That's pretty much how everything is done in the back end. Again, the front end I didn't change it. As you can see, there's the same parser and tokenizer as I showed below. So compartmentalization, compartmentalization, compartmentalization. Literally, everything is broken out, and I did this for 2 reasons. For one, it was easier for me. So if I were to run into a bug, right, I would have, maybe some issue with, let's say if statements are acting up for some reason, right? Then I could literally say, okay, if statements, there's a bug in if statements, go to compiler, go to functions, go to statements, and if statement, right? Boom, we're right here. Now, for some reason, I'm not actually compiling the compiler. There we go. So this is the first thing, right? Compartmentalizing everything out into its own individual section of code, its own individual file, really allows for me to fix bugs and to rapidly improve on the compiler, but it also helps me be able to strip out things that I don't need anymore, add in new things. It just makes this whole system so much easier. There's way too much for me to get into in this video about all the features and stuff in the compiler and stuff. We'll have to get into that later. But what this also does is this helps you guys as well. Now, this wasn't originally intended for that purpose, but I realize now, if you guys are looking to build a programming language, this is going to be the type of structure you're going to want to have. And I really think this is going to help you guys a lot more than having to look through, literally, like, how would you even find, again, this is why I said my other compiler was complete garbage. How would you even find in this backend, I wouldn't even know where to begin, if statements, right? If I just type, I can't even do that. If I just type if, there's a million if statements. So I don't even know where I'm processing if statements in this. I would basically have to start from the very beginning where I called compile or whatever, and then work my way through the code, and I don't even know what the heck that is. But with the new system, literally you can go through and find anything you need. So if you want to look to see how I process do while statements in the programming language, you can see how I do that here. If you want to look to see, how are throw statements handled, or how are try catch statements handled, how do I handle finally statements, how do I handle, you can just go down the list literally and look through every bit of code. Everything is laid out super clean. I mean, you can even look at this, right? Like this is a bunch of code that's being generated for the compiler, and this looks 1,000 times better than this disgusting mess that I have down here. Like if I just go to a random function to try to look to see how I'm generating code, it's just a mess. There's a bunch of crap just all over the place. It's not easy to understand. You know, it's just difficult, right? So that's a really big benefit to the new compiler. And if I go back out, even down to the much larger stages, right? So you guys remember, if you remember how I built my compiler in the past, there's three main stages. There's the pre-processing stage, post-processing stage, and then there's the compilation stage. And then after that, you have the code generation stage, but that's like further on the back end. So even those are broken out, right? So if you want to see, okay, how do you pre-process fields inside of a programming language or inside of a compiler, you can search that. Same thing for post-processing for functions, classes, etc. So this is a lot easier to go through. And as a result of this has basically allowed me to generate code that is so beautiful and that's so clean that it pales in comparison to my previous compiler. My previous compiler would generate, like if I go here, and this is an ODF file, which is basically an object dump file, if you guys don't remember. This just shows like basic machine instructions that are running on my virtual machine. The code that would be generated here by my previous compiler was sketchy at best. It worked, but not completely. And there were a lot of times where I would have seg faults in my virtual machine, or just a bunch of weird stuff because it was not generating code properly. Well, because I've compartmentalized everything out and made things very, very simple to maintain and manage and code, I have virtually almost no seg faults or any weird issues in my new compiler because of the way that I've architected it. So I want to get into that. I want to get into the new features that I have, but I'm going to leave this up to you guys. I'm going to put this video out. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me what you want to explain. Tell me what you want. Do you want me to start with all the new features that we're going to have in 0.3.0? Do you want me to just get straight to compiler architecture? Do you want me to talk about a specific thing in the compiler? Like how do I do this? How do I do that? Let me know. I'm going to leave it up to you guys and we'll go from there. So until next time, I'll see you guys again. And hopefully this time we'll be back. We'll see. Peace out, guys.